Hey everyone! So I have been trying to get this Pemmican video going for months. I think the first portion of it was literally taped months ago. I think I finally have it all together, and for right or wrong, this is how my husband and I make Pemmican. We may not make it the way other people make it, and our Pemmican turns out different than other people's, but this is how we make it. So take it for what it is, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks! So we just processed ribeyes, cutting up a primal cut of ribeye. We're now food saving it. But this is the rendering of the fat from the ribeye. So when this is finished, we'll have rendered fat to be able to make tallow out of and amazing little fat bites, which I'll show you when they're done. Okay, while rendering our fat, we're almost to the point where the fat is rendered out and the fat bites are almost total fat now. Like they're just the leftovers of that. So all of that liquid we will use to make pemmican, and those are going to get pulled out, put in the oven for a few minutes to crisp up even more, and they're going to be the most delicious snacks in the whole world. Okay, we are done rendering the fat. Now we're going to pull all of the wonderful, beautiful, crunchy crispies out of there. So we've taken all the wonderful crispies and we put them out on a cookie sheet. Now would be a good time to taste to make sure that your salt is good, because we're getting ready to dump this rendered fat into this bowl. We do not strain the rendered fat when we are making pemmican out of it because there's no need. We're going to mix it with beef flour anyway. So we're going to dump this in just a second. We put the crispies in the oven. They're going to be 400 degrees convection roast for 10 minutes. And then we're going to dump.
Sit it on there.
We're not going to. Really quick, we're going to meet Nathan, my husband.
Aloha.
And now we're going to dump. And then since we are not making pemmican today because we do not have the beef flour ready, you can leave the rendered fat either on the counter or put it in the refrigerator, it doesn't matter. But we put it in the fridge. So we're gonna put the lid on it and put it in the fridge, and all of that fat made a completely full bowl of rendered fat for our pemmican. All right, getting ready to get the crispies out. After 10 minutes, we stirred them and then did them for another 10 minutes. So they're just coming out. And as much as you want to eat them right now, you should let them cool, because I promise you, those little fat bites have lots of very hot fat in the middle of them that burns your mouth, from my experience. I am getting ready to do the meat that I use for my pemmican. I'm going to grind all of these scrap pieces that came off of chuck rolls that we took apart. So once I get that all ground into a hamburger, then we will start to dehydrate the meat to make the pemmican. This mixture is going to be a really nice high fat. Which just makes the pemmican even that more nutrient and fat dense. Grinding is finished. I ended up with a huge container of ground beef with lots of great fat in it. I'm going to save only 2 pounds out of this whole thing for my pemmican right now, and then I'm going to put this in food saving bags in 2-pound bags. Absolutely recommend the KitchenAid grinder. I don't know what I would do without it when I'm grinding. Pardon the Christmas music behind me, it is Christmas time. So this is what I ended up with out of that big 9 2-pound bags and then 1 2-pound bowl. This is what the beef flour is going to be made out of today, and the rest of this will go in the freezer for the next rounds of pemmican. So this really cool jerky gun that is making strips of ground beef, just filled it up with it, and then we're going to put those in the oven to dehydrate. So it's been about an hour and a half, and you can see that the meat has definitely cooked, but our goal is for it to be like potato chip consistency almost, where it'll break off really easy. So we're just gonna keep going. We took the meat out of the oven. It ended up not being completely done before bedtime last night, so we finished it this morning. See how it breaks apart really, really easy, and it's no longer got any humidity or moisture to it. It's all like chips. So it's all going to get broke up and put into our Vitamix, which doesn't do much these days, but make flour because we don't use it for anything else. Use my KitchenAid mixer to grind meat, and use my Vitamix to grind meat into flour, or what do you call it, grinding meat into flour. And they're no longer used for juicing or for baking or any of that stuff with this Carnivore. You can do this for as long as you want and for what consistency. A lot of people like their pemmican with a little bit of shredded, like my husband does. This is the way he likes his. He likes his with more shredded meat and less fat. And I like mine with more fat, and I like mine with flour. That's pretty close to the way I like it. And this is the point where we taste it to make sure it has enough salt. This is a great place to add more salt if it's not salty enough. This is all based on your preference, so. Perfect. Doesn't need any more salt. We're going to weigh it to see what we yielded. That started off with 2 pounds of hamburger. You saw the grinding when it was done grinding it. And it's amazing what you lose when you're dehydrating it. You don't have to use hamburger. You can use thin meat. You can use whatever you want. We find it the easiest to grind our meat into hamburger and then do it that way. So 2 pounds yielded 10 ounces. And then we'll add that to the fat momentarily. I eat my pemmican in several ways. Yes, that is a sourdough starter in the camera. I do have children who still eat bread. So I like mine several ways. If I'm looking for really high fat, I'll do 2 parts rendered fat to 1 part flour. But I actually have been preferring it 1.5 parts fat to 1 part flour. So we ended up with 10.2. So we're going to put 15.4, no, 15. I did my math. 15.3 would be doing 1.5 parts fat to, but it doesn't, like, this isn't science, this isn't baking, so we can kind of go where we're supposed to be. Perfect, let's go there. So we're going to put 15.6 ounces of rendered fat in with 10.2 ounces of the beef flour. I'm going to stick this on heat, and our goal isn't to boil it. Our goal is just to liquefy it so we can mix it with the beef flour. And then I prefer mine to go on a cookie sheet with parchment paper, and then it kind of makes it like a bark that I just break off and eat what I want off of it. Starting to liquefy. Now that it is completely liquid, I'm going to dump the flour into it. Breaking up the clumps as much as you can. Then mixing in the flour. Dump the mixture onto the parchment paper and the cookie sheet. Now remember, there are companies that sell pemmican. There are people who make their own pemmican. Everybody's is going to turn out different, and everybody has their own way of doing it. This is what works for me. This is what I like, and this is what gives me that extra fat that I need through the day to try to keep my fat intake at 80% or higher to fix my nerves. So now I just kind of mix it so there's a good portion of, how do I want to say that? A good layer of beef flour with the fat over it. Yes? He's shaking his head, yes.
Yep.
And then once that is done, it's going to go in the refrigerator. And it takes a couple of hours to start setting up really good, but usually I wait till the next day to eat it. So it sets up really nicely. And he licked it and shook his head yes, so it must taste yummy. Now it's going to go in the fridge. I take it back. He leaves it on the counter and lets it start to set up there. And then once it starts setting up a little bit so it's easier to move to the fridge, then it will go to the fridge. And on a side note, it is bacon day. Okay, it's almost always bacon day. And we're going to do 2 pounds of bacon in our bacon pot because we absolutely loved watching the video that Dr. Barry made that showed bacon in the bacon pot. This has been setting up in the fridge for about 18 hours. I just broke a piece off because I do it such high fat. My fat and the beef do separate some. You can see some fat in there, but that's okay. But I tasted it and I can guarantee, besides my dog barking, that it is absolutely amazing. And I love it, and it gets me my fat, and I don't have to eat butter because I just can't do the butter. So that is my pemmican. If you have any questions, please ask. And as always, thank you for watching, and subscribe and like this. I appreciate you all. Cheers.